Hello and welcome to Vision Denial. My name is Sam, and this is Worlds Watch in a different format. Keen viewers amongst you who have watched me for a while usually know that I do this on a topic-per-topic, week-per-week basis. In this particular case, it is getting harder and harder to talk about specific things without sounding a little too redundant and repetitive. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is waiting up until right before Worlds before doing a massive talk of everything, and instead releasing the bulk of all of the reviews that I do on TikTok for each region once the region is done, so you guys get the chance to see or get a nice, quick, fast version of all the playoffs that have happened for any particular region. And to be specific, it's all of the best of fives that are relevant for the qualification of Worlds, i.e. things like the best of three formats in the LEC don't count. Things like the first three best of fives to determine the last three teams for the LPL don't count. The stage one of the PCS playoff don't count. Best of fives in a proper format in a format that is a condoning towards the qualification of Worlds. So, if you've seen the title, then you know this is for the VCS, the Vietnamese League. And for those who have also followed, know about the sad tragedy of the fact that many of the minor regions are being either dissolved, fused, or relegated to Tier 2. The VCS has been included into it as it is being absorbed in some way, shape, or form into the APAC League, the Asia Pacific Championships. So this is likely the last Vietnamese playoff for who knows how long. So without further ado, say hello to the playoffs as well as the qualifications of their two representatives. Let's watch. You could have done a coin flip for these teams and either one would have been fine to move on. Both play with some incredible vision, solid understanding of their win conditions, while being flexible overall. Team Flash have a better play around neutral objectives and are a little more coordinated when it comes to skirmishing, but Team Wales are a little more macro-oriented with an emphasis of carrying through all stages of the game. The biggest thing here that has me convinced that neither team would do well going forward, let alone on the international stage, is the frequent inability to close out games and drag things on for far too long, and turning these games that were assured into irrelevance as things came down to the better team fight or better use of the map to clean house and win. Now, Team Wales managed to do that in a clean series that could have easily been a 5-game gauntlet just in any given way. My MVP of the series is Hasman for how he applied pressure around the map and during skirmishes. This was round 1 of the VCS Team Flash versus Team Wales. This was more than the expected outcome. Team Secrets show a strong early game foundation and solid adaptability, combining that with some decent coordination and an eye for their win conditions. My largest issue with this team is their inability to properly balloon the leads they accrue, or even keep up much of the pressure that they've started with in their early game play, which is a shame given how solid their fundamentals are. GAM, for their part, continue to show us why they regularly represent the VCS. From their incredible coordination, now seemingly back in form, incredible vision play, excellent late game approach, and just overall a stronger team bar for bar. I especially love how well they still control the game from behind, making sure all opportunities for comebacks are there. That said, so often individual micro errors keep happening in ways that slow the game down and are concerning as a whole, especially as on the international stage, teams will do more than just get a kill when it happens. My MVP for this series is Levy for the ways he helps control the tempo of the game at all stages. This was the VCS's round 2 upper bracket, Team Secret versus GAM Esports. It's been a while since I've seen this level of dominance out of the VCS. Team Wales manage a lot in this series despite what the scoreline may indicate. They show strong coordination, great vision play, solid understanding of their win conditions, and more importantly, very proactive play. It's unfortunate that they still couldn't manage to eke out a single win against the Vikings, and sadly part of that is due to their inconsistency, weird mispositions, and overall inability to balloon certain leads, but especially because Viking Esports is a beast of a team. They show not just strong fundamentals, but proficiency in them at a high degree. From vision play, neutral setups, macro choices, answering plays, closing out games, the list goes on and on. At no point did Viking Esports ever give up a lead. Either they're ballooning them like crazy, trading equally or up, and always making sure that an error is salvageable. And that's just the thing. Team Wales would regularly force errors out of Viking Esports. It was rare to see them play an unforced error, and at all times, just every single one of them were easily salvageable and done so swiftly. This is a very efficient team that I am more than convinced is poised for the international stage. My MVP of this series is B for how well he controlled the space in every single skirmish and team fight without fail. This was Round 2 of the upper bracket of the VCS, Team Wales versus Viking Esports. It all comes down to a Game 5 Elder Drake flip. Quite honestly, either team going forward would have been fine in different ways, but not enough for them to be really international success. Both are rather impatient and inconsistent with their approach, not holding any solid understanding of their own win conditions. Now, Team Secret is better understanding and recognizing their opponent's win conditions and properly punishing any mispositions, but in doing so, willingly giving up the pace of the game to Team Wales. For their part, Team Wales balloon leads and keep up a nice pace of play, allowing all of their stomps to feel super satisfying when, they happen, but so often they overplay their hand and misjudge their setups that we have mostly coin flip team here that I honestly just wouldn't expect to do well in the next round, let alone in an international stage. Let's hope that they can clean it up and become more consistent by then. My MVP for the series is Sounda for how he kept control of the pace and tempo of these games. This was round 2 of the VCS's lower bracket, Team Secret versus Team Wales. Congrats to GAM on being the third team to qualify for Worlds. Although it wouldn't surprise me, Viking should be next. From their solid vision play, strong macro choices, and decent coordinations, the Vikings are a force to be reckoned with in ways that are a lot more subtle for the VCS. Now that said, they often find themselves a little too passive in their approach around neutrals and sieging, allowing their opponents to get properly situated when they should have no business doing so. For GAM, the issue is being too aggressive. In the early game, we see them regularly pushing and aiming for their win conditions, usually coin flipping if they'll manage to get somewhere or not for their win conditions, of which they do have a very strong understanding of. Outside of that, their mid to late game macro play, team fighting coordination, and overall sense of play make for a strong international contender. My MVP for this series is Kjaya, who was a regular thorn in Viking's side at all stages. This was round 3, upper bracket of the VCS, Viking Esports versus GAM Esports. Congrats to the Vikings on being the 4th team to qualify for Worlds. Team Wales showed some improvement today. There was a better approach to the early game and to some ballooning of their leads. They played well enough to punish the Vikings where presented, but their over-aggression, bizarre macro choices, and frankly questionable coordination meant that even in the third game, that they should have had some winning angles, they just couldn't muster the win. Now, Vikings was expected to win and get the second slot of the VCS. And of course, they did. Their subtle approach to wave management and macro plays is pretty solid, but their passivity still hurt them in this series, forcing them to rely on coordination around skirmishes and contesting neutrals as they enter the rematch for seeding against GAM in the grand finals. Something has to happen between today and tomorrow if they want to avoid another loss. My MVP for this series is Katsi for how much he disrupted Team Wales during these skirmishes. This was the VCS's lower bracket semifinals, Team Wales versus Viking Esports. What time is it? That's right, it's game time. Now, Viking Esports attempt again to play some early game aggression, and to their credit, it is noticeable, this type of improvement. Their coordination is there, there's some solid neutral control and proper macro plays, but it's not enough of an improvement to see that the issue of ballooning or creating leads is still something that the Vikings need to fix if they want to properly face teams on the international stage. GAM, on their part, look much cleaner in this finals than any of the other series they played. From their coordination to macro plays to closing out games, frankly, GAM have two glaring issues at this junction. First is their overaggression. They seem to believe that a play will work no matter what, regardless of their gold lead. And while that is good when ahead, I can see this backfiring on the international stage. And lastly, their early game isn't consistent. And for a team that balloons leads incredibly well, this could be a bigger problem against stronger teams on the at Worlds. My MVP for the series is Kiaya for how much he disrupted the Vikings at every stage. This was the grand finals of the VCS, Viking Esports versus GAM Esports. Holy moly, we've got our two representatives. We got ourselves a GAM Esports and a Viking Esports. Both of these teams, as I've mentioned in many of these particular reviews, are very well coordinated with very different approaches to how to use that coordination and team fighting prowess. I am going to be very excited to see how GAM manages to really push themselves against a lot of the more macro-oriented teams who take their time versus how Viking Esports are going to have to deal with a lot of their more aggressive counterparts, especially against LPL teams. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, what your expectations are for the VCS representatives. Up next, if I am correct in those for the series that are about to end, the LLA is next to finish their particular playoffs this coming Friday. So hopefully within that period of time, I should have it ready for you then. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you next time.